now. The hacking group. Yes, great. There's a mic coming to you.
Hi, so we were the hacking group, but we decided to kind of change our name a little bit to making in the developing world instead of hacking because
I'm sorry, to what?
To making instead of hacking because the maker-hacker movement are really closely tied together, but making doesn't have all the negative connotations and the scary government wanting to go after you connotations with it. So we decided that one of our, the best idea that we had was to put in actual physical maker spaces. So sometimes we call them hacker spaces, but in this case we're going to call them maker spaces. And basically what happens is, when you give people like a small room and a ton of like old crap, they're going to end up making stuff. So with some soldering irons and like, maybe a, I don't know, bandsaw or laser cutter or something. But you can develop a lot of community within those. It becomes like a safe place to learn to fail and try again and make something that works. It's something that is a self-regulated space. So people can all kind of share what they've learned, share different parts of their knowledge, share how they put something together, that kind of thing. And so then the how, we thought, well, what we could do so far is sort of do the exportation of surplus tech. There's a lot of hacker spaces around
exploration of surplus
technology. Okay. Sorry. Okay. There's a lot of hacker spaces around the U.S. and Europe, and if we just said, hey, can you box up, a regular postage size box of your junk that you don't want, there would be not a hackerspace on the planet that would be able to give away a box of their junk that they don't want. And then we were kind of thinking some sort of like private or anonymous funding to get these guys started would kind of be excellent because we're kind of thinking going away from like government funding so that the government can focus their money on other things, and also because sometimes with the government funding comes limitations, and with maker environments, you don't want to have those limitations because a lot of it is, voiding the warranties and going against copyright law and things like that. And so, to have full freedom of innovation, we thought, some sort of private funding would probably be best.
That's interesting. In Indonesia, after the tsunami, there was a huge outpouring of donations from the U.S., but a lot of it was the wrong stuff. And I'm thinking about my basement now and the Museum of Old Technology that is my basement, and wondering what subset of things, I'd put that stuff in a box in a heartbeat. What subset of things would show up in one of these spaces that would be valuable to the people going there?
A good example of, and maybe junk is the wrong word, but older tech is a good example. If any of you have ever spent any time in the physics or engineering department, you'll find a couple old oscilloscopes there. An oscilloscope is a very powerful technical tool, and but it often remains on the shelf while everyone uses the brand new one. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about, is that kind of technology. It's not necessarily the oldest stuff, it's the disused but not obsolete.
Got it.
And also, like, even older stuff can be taken apart to get perfectly fine working stuff out of them. Like a really good example is cell phones and printers. Even if they don't work anymore at all, you can strip those parts away and get like a bunch of decent components out of them, Paseo speakers and like motors and things like that.
Great, okay.
Yeah, there is so.
The junkyard is here, it's just unevenly distributed.
I think we're focusing a little on the commodity parts that we've talked about exporting. The other function is exporting the tools, soldering irons, oscilloscopes, so on and so forth. And besides that, while we're shipping over all the laser cutters and so on and so forth.
Grant's temples start throbbing every time you say laser cutter, just so you know.
Okay. I would also suggest that we export some fine young MIT graduates. They're really smart, they're motivated, and they seem to be pretty handy with all kinds of technology tools for a short stint overseas to pad their resume and learn something about the real world.
The geek core idea. I'm sorry. Hold these because we're gonna have some plenary conversation when we get going. So the group on the stage, which I believe is the education group. am I wrong about the group? Yeah, you mean the group that you were in?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I'm Rema, and I'm from UNICEF. And they had a fine bunch of people coming from NGOs, from Digital Democracy, from IBM, and school student NYU, and so on. So just to say that the main idea that we looked at was actually a media that would help education. And so we had to involve the community. So 3 groups of issues were, one was to set up community kiosks. Another was having kids-to-kids programs and technology to assist teachers. So I'll give you just a couple of examples of how we thought about community kiosks, and that is, one was to set up youth media centers to create local news. And the other was about having kind of media centers or kiosks for mothers, for men in like a beauty parlors and barber shops. And we thought that's a place where people commune, and therefore probably a way to spread awareness and education among parents, and especially because we have talked about countries where HIV/AIDS is an issue, where teachers are absent, or the quality of teaching is poor. So it's important that both parents as well as community members and teachers are all empowered. So that's one example. We also talked about kids to kids, which is mentoring among school kids, 6th grade to 8th grade, or across communities, east to west, where some of the examples using media, for example, Yahoo Answers or Google How to Do, and things like that, that kids would be empowered to use. So I don't know if there's more time, so I won't talk more about this. Unless, you know, a question answer
this is the awful width versus depth trade-off of these meetings, which is the amount of stuff that goes on in the room can't compress into into what we're doing.
So I have all these cards sitting here.
But what we will do is we will transcribe everything you give us on those cards, and we will recirculate it to this group and to the wider world for some kind of annotation sharing. It's one of the reasons I wanted to capture the names of the people who are in the groups too, because as with the drawings earlier, a big part of this was to get away from broadcast of just people standing on the stage and into convening. And we can't unpack all of that value now, but we will do whatever we can to try and capture it.